Hope everyone had a wonderful, relaxing, long Labor Day weekend. I know I did. I'm very refreshed, and I got to spend time with my husband, and it was really nice. So thank you so much for tuning in to my channel, In His Sweet Presence. As many of you guys already know, I've been documenting my walk with the Lord. I became born again and saved Christian in December of 2011. So it's fairly recent. I wouldn't say I'm a total baby Christian. I'm kind of like a toddler, you know? I'm learning. I just learned how to walk, and I'm gonna learn how to run. And yeah, it's been a journey so far, and it's been an awesome journey. And yeah, I'm so grateful to God that He just continually puts it in my heart to seek after Him and to pursue Him. And I just love talking about my faith. I love making these YouTube videos and connecting with all of you out there. And thanks for subscribing and for following me on this journey. And I just want to share what I've been learning lately. In the one-year Bible reading challenge, the one-year Bible reading challenge that we're currently doing, we're about 66% through the Bible, and we just finished the book of Job, and we are now on Ecclesiastes, and I'm just talking about the Old Testament right now. In the New Testament, I believe we're in 2 Corinthians. But it's Job is a book that I really enjoyed, and I want to talk about it here because have you guys ever asked, you know, why God? Why is there so much pain and suffering in this world? You know, God, if you're in control of all of it, you know, why do bad things happen to good people? And you know, there's this problem of evil, and God, you know, why do you allow this evil, you know, in this world? And these are some big sort of basic questions that people ask, and sometimes it wrecks people's faith. It's a great argument for atheists, you know, well, if God is all powerful, then why does He allow pain and suffering? You know, why do bad things happen to good people? And you know, there must not be a God if there's so much evil and suffering in the world, you know. And this was something that was raised in, you know, the last video that I made, the IRS is after me video, where I kind of got into a discussion with a person that was making comments on the video, and essentially that person was talking about the problem of evil, you know, people having to die senselessly, innocent people, you know, and how could God be a part of that? How could God allow this? And I feel like the book of Job really sort of tackled that, you know, and it doesn't give a definite sort of satisfactory answer, but for me as a believer, it was satisfactory for me. And I just want to point out some of the key points that I really enjoyed in Job. And so basically, you know, it's kind of like a contest. It's a wager between Satan and God. And you know, Satan, you know, in the beginning of Job, God asks, "Where are you coming from?" to Satan, and Satan's like, "Oh, I've been roaming the earth, you know, and I've just come back and forth." And basically he's saying, you know, I've been roaming like a prowling lion, trying to, you know, bring somebody down, you know. And God basically goes, "Well, have you considered Job, my righteous servant Job?" And it was interesting that God would, you know, bring that up. You know, why would He take someone who's righteous, as God says Himself, that Job is so righteous, and Job would, you know, never strayed away from God. He loved God his whole life. He was blessed by God, and here God is saying, you know, if you want to try to, you know, He's telling Satan, if you want to try to go after somebody, you know, go after my servant Job. And God does that because He knows that Job is going to be faithful despite all the tragedy and the suffering and the pain that God allows Satan to inflict on Job. And, you know, someone might say on the outside, if you're not a believer, someone might say, "God, that is so cruel. Geez, you know, why would God allow that? That just seems so unfair," you know. But there's a conclusion to this, and it's answered in Job why God allows this. Okay, and so I just want to point out something. And here is Job. Basically, what it is, Job is he knows he's righteous. He is upright. He has done everything right in society and in his life. He hasn't done anything wrong. So he's wondering, God, why? So this whole book is about Job trying to tackle this question, and also his friends that chime in and go, well, you must have done something wrong if God is doing this to you. So, stop, being trying to act like you're all upright and like you haven't done anything wrong. You must have done something wrong, is what Job's friends say to him. And Job is the whole time sort of scratching his head going, gosh, what did I do? I just want God to show me my sin. Show me what it is that I've done wrong to deserve all this tragedy, the death of his daughters and sons, and taking all his possessions away and all that he's worked for and accumulated over his lifetime, all his prosperity and all his wealth, and now he's been struck with sickness and boils and all kinds of things on his body, and he's just in agony basically, and Job 30:25-31, Job is asking that question. He's like, have I not wept for those in trouble? Has not my soul grieved for the poor? Yet when I hoped for good, evil came. When I looked for the light, then came darkness. The churning inside me never stops. Days of suffering confront me, go about blackened, but not by the sun. I stand up in the assembly and cry for help. I have become a brother of jackals, a companion of owls. My skin grows black and peels. My body burns with fever. My harp is tuned to mourning, and my flute to the sound of wailing. And you could just really get a sense in those verses that Job is just struggling and so much, and yet he doesn't understand why, because he's been so righteous all his life. A lot of us go through this. A lot of us go through hard times and challenges, and the first thing people will do is they'll curse God. They get mad at God. And I actually know a friend, well, she's more like an acquaintance, that this has happened to her. She went from being a, on fire, church-going Christian believer into totally just turning her back on that and just focusing on her own ambitions and desires in life. And, it's all about achieving status, in life. And she has really went through hard times as well. And at this point, she's mad. She's angry at God for all the bad things that have happened in her life and all the struggles that she's had to go through. And I have to admit, they are really bad stuff. I mean, I won't go into the details, but just a lot of things that can make somebody really broken inside. Just a real spirit-crushing series of events that can happen to somebody and really make someone doubt that God is there. And this is what happened. And she said she's mad at God, and that's, I hate to say this, but it's kind of very elementary, to think this way. And thankfully I haven't had to go through a lot of suffering in my life, but I've had my share of pain and suffering. And I asked God too, God, why did you have me go through all that? It was such a dark place for me to be in for so long, for so many years of my life. And God, why did you let me go through that? And God gave me the answer. And God said, if you didn't go through that, you would not have known the glory of who I am, the my majesty and my sovereignty, and you would not know that you went through all that so that you can come out the other side and look at just how dark that place was. And so God was kind of showing me that all the pain and suffering that I went through in my life, the brokenness that I felt in my life, was for a reason. And it's true. If I didn't go through that, I would not truly appreciate all the things that God has blessed me with. His love, His mercy, His grace, His joy, His peace, I would take all that for granted. I wouldn't really appreciate it, And so, so this book, the book of Job, really just is about Job going, why? Why, God? Why do I have to suffer? I haven't done anything wrong. And it's really about the problem of evil in this world. And God, for whatever reason, he allows it. And actually there is a reason. And God actually replies to Job in chapter 38. And this sort of said it all for me. These kind of first 4 verses of chapter 38, when God finally speaks. And he's just, telling Job, and I'll read you what he says. Then the Lord answered Job out of the storm. He said, "Who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand." Ooh! So these first 4 verses in chapter 38, when God finally speaks to Job. And especially verse 4, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand." And, this whole time, Job is trying to understand. His friends are trying to understand this mystery, of why Job is going through all this pain and suffering and darkness, and God saying, "What do you know? You guys are just babbling on and on like you know something. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you understand." God is saying, stop trying to understand me. He's saying he's so majestic. God is so big. He's so immense. He's so grand that he's just too magnificent for our understanding, basically, is what God is saying. And it just makes you just shut up. It's just like, okay, God, you're right. I don't know anything. I don't know jack. And sometimes we just rack our brains going, why? And we're trying to understand, but the point that God is trying to make, you have little understanding. I am the creator of the universe. And you're trying to understand the mystery of me, the mystery of who I am, and the incomprehensible God. You're trying to understand me. And it's like, kind of like, why bother? Ultimately, from what I got from this was that God does this. God allows pain and suffering. He allows the evil. He allows the darkness in this world for his glory. For his glory. And it's all about him. He is king, and we are his subjects. We are not to question the king. We are simply to just follow and to trust and to have faith that everything works under his will, under his sovereign will. But here's the most important thing, is that despite all of this, despite all his tragedy, despite all the pain, the suffering, the isolation, Job never cursed God. He never turned his back on God. And as soon as God answered, Job replied in chapter 42, this is the last chapter of the book. Then Job replied to the Lord, "I know that you can do all things. No plan of yours can be thwarted. You asked, 'Who is this that obscures my counsel without knowledge?' Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know. You said, 'Listen now, and I will speak. I will question you, and you shall answer me.' My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. So what's really amazing about Job is that he didn't have the normal response, and he proved himself to be righteous. And God knew that he was righteous, but again, it was a test. This was a test from Satan, and Job passed. Job passed the test, and God blessed him triplefold later in his life, and he did live a long life. He got more blessings than he ever had before from God, and for me, that was the takeaway for this book, was that even though we can't understand why there's evil and there's such darkness and there's pain and suffering in the world, even though we don't understand, we can't turn our backs on God. We just have to keep trusting in him. We have to keep our faith alive despite those challenging times. God does things, it's a mystery, why he allows these things to happen, but ultimately it's for his glory, and he deserves all the glory, and we don't have a right to question him. And that's what I got from Job, and hopefully I'm interested in hearing what you guys thought about this book as well. I just hope none of the atheists come on here and start bad-mouthing this video, but for my subscribers and other believers out there, what did you guys think? What did you get from the book of Job, and has it blessed you as much as it has me? Thanks so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next video.